And now, Fairfax Breakfast Club with your host, Bazil Lemba.
Hello, and welcome to the Fairfax Breakfast Club show. My name is Bazil Lemba, and I will be your host. The Fairfax Breakfast Club is a weekly program in which we bring you valuable and workable know-how you can use in order to improve your networking and grow your business. We always start the show with a quote, and today's quote is about growing your business, and it's called the third dynamic triangle. And it goes like this. Seems to work that when you drop out people, you drop out service, you drop out funds. An organization that dismisses staff to save money drops service and winds up with high debt. In an organization, when I manage one, I quote, I directly and always push up numbers of staff, push up service, and the money rolls in. It isn't necessary, this isn't a number of people. People, quote unquote, probably need a special definition. It may be beings or productive individuals or people in affinity with each other. L. Ron Hubbard. With us today, we have a public speaking coach, four-time Emmy award-winning journalist. I hope you've seen the previous show. If not, please go back and see that show again. You're going to have a lot of fun. Her name is Jan Fox.
Thank you, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Now I have the main question. How did you get on television?
You got 8 days?
I have 7.5.
7.5, all right. How did I end up on television? Well, first of all, I can guarantee you that kids from my neighborhood don't end up on television. In fact, as a little kid, I think the only woman I ever saw on television was on my neighbor's TV because we didn't have one. It was I Love Lucy, all right? So I could never grow up where I grew up and dream of ending up on television. Could I tell you a little story about where I came from?
Sure, absolutely.
The corner of Montgomery and Locust Streets in lovely downtown Shelbyville, Indiana. It's a relatively small town, south of Indianapolis, not a lot of industry, small businesses. And my house, my daddy's house, when he died a few years ago, sold for $17,000.
Oh, really?
So it was a little bitty house. My mother was troubled, very troubled. We now know that she probably suffered from chronic depression. And she was abusive, physically abusive to me and my brother. I don't play victim to that.
No, I understand.
But she knew nothing about keeping a house and taking care of children. So it was filthy inside. So I was about 6 years old. This is my best memory, about 6 or 7 years old. And I got to go to my great Aunt Lottie's to spend the night. Now, she had orange juice and toast with butter on it and jam, and the bathtub was clean. It didn't dawn on me until many years later why she always said, come on, little Foxy, let's hop in the bathtub as soon as I walked in the house. I was probably a filthy mess. But she was just wonderful. And so she said, tonight we're going to watch the Miss America show. And I watched it. And oh my, those beautiful dresses, and they sang opera, and they did all these things. I thought, that is, wow. As a little kid, I remember that feeling. So I went home to my house, and there was a dirty sheet on the bed. And so I wrapped myself in that sheet, and I had a strap of it come this way. And I looked in the mirror and I pretended I was Miss America. And then I wrapped it another way so that it was strapless. And then I wrapped it another way so it was like a shawl. And Basile, there was something in me that said, I'm out of here. At a very young age. I'm not gonna live like this at a very young age. So when I was in the 3rd grade, I had 2 jobs. I took over my brother's newspaper route. And then my Uncle Gene had a shoe repair, and I swept that out every night. So from this little neighborhood that was, you know, not affluent, not even close to affluent, I did have money when I was a kid because I worked. And I can hear my daddy to this day saying, you want something, you gotta work for it. You gotta work, you gotta work. And so I've just worked. And ended up being a kindergarten teacher. When I left there, I felt like I had a couple of choices. I could be a nurse or a teacher, so I chose kindergarten teaching. And then I went to work at a college. And while I was there, I met a woman who said to me, I run the Ford model shop, not the big Ford modeling agency, but the Ford model shop in Boston. We were in Boston at this point. And she said, I could use the mature look. Could you model for me? And I burst out laughing, first response. And then I really laughed because she said the mature look. I think I was like 29 or 30 or something, so it was saying you're old, okay?
I see.
But I did that, and one night she took a group of us over to this little studio, and there was a guy named Rex Traylor. Look him up on the website, Rex Traylor.
Okay.
He was a cowboy on television, but he was running these workshops for people who wanted to try television. And so I just went along. And he said, you know, you've got potential, so keep coming back. And so I kept going back, and I had to go in with a cauliflower and pretend I was selling cauliflower. I had to use an accent and pretend I was selling Shanks, Arcanum beef, whatever the assignment was. Then I had to be a news anchor. And so I did that for like 10 weeks, and I kind of caught a bug. But you know, I'm already in my 30s at that point. But I met somebody, and he said, I produce a little show at a public access television station. And he said, we need somebody older to do helpful household hints. Well, if you saw where I came from, I didn't know anything about helpful household hints, and I didn't learn it much from my own house. So I did things like, try to imagine this. I showed them how to get up the last crumbs off the floor that don't go in a dustpan. And I ripped out a page from the Yellow Pages book. I licked it along the side, stuck it on the floor, and then took the broom and pushed everything on that paper and picked it up and said, see, it's all there. And I didn't get paid for that, for good reason. Okay. Another time I talked about how to bathe a 100-pound husky who didn't want a bath, but he has to have a bath to keep your house clean. And so I put this humongous husky named Jason in a pink kid's bathtub, and I'm telling you, that dog did not want to go in there, and I was splattered from top to bottom. So I did some pretty crazy things all the time working at the college. And then one day, I saw a guy who was shooting videos, and I said, could you shoot me doing a couple of pretend news stories? And he said, sure. I paid him $200. Today
Wow.
it would cost many thousand. And I took that tape, back, you know, I'm old if I say videotape, I took it to the ABC station in Boston, and I went in to see a producer of a talk show. And oh my goodness, she went to my church. I had no idea. And she looked at it, and once again she said, you know, Jan Fox, you have some potential. I keep having potential. And she said, I'll keep this on my desk. And a couple of days later, the host of that show couldn't go to the Boston Ballet to interview the new choreographer. Well, here I am, the worst tomboy in the whole wide world. So she called me and she said, can you do this for us? And I said, sure. So I go there, and they have me put on a little pink thing and stand by the bar and say, good morning, welcome to the Good Day Show, as if I knew what I were doing. But somehow it worked. Some photographer told me where to stand, what to say, told me not to have a screechy voice, but I couldn't help it. And I don't know, then I got another call. And this time, it was to go to the Satch Sanders celebrity race and cover that. Do you know who he is? He's an old-time basketball player. And so he was doing this celebrity race downtown. So I go, and I can't say her name, but she's a pretty well-known television person and married to somebody famous. And she said, well, actually, she didn't sit on a chair like we're doing. She kind of perched. She had this aura of just grace and elegance that I could never come close to. And she says, and now let's go out to the race with Jan Fox. I can't believe I'm going to do this. Yes, I am Jan Fox, and I'm at the Sanders Celebrity Race, and I can see the racers, and they're coming down the street, and just a couple of minutes they'll be here, and I'll talk to them, and so back to you in the studio. And she says, thank you, Jan, and someday you'll learn you don't have to yell if you have on a microphone.
Oh, wow.
So it hits me that I am dissed on live ABC TV. You know that I have told everybody I know to watch. I'm going to be on TV, right? All my family, all my friends. I even told 2 ladies in the grocery store line, please, watch me on TV. I'm going to be on Sunday. And I'm dissed.
Wow.
So I felt terrible. And when I got back, in fact, I just thought it's over. It's over because now people are going to know that I can't do this.
You're not up to the job.
I'm an amateur. I'm not up to the job. But I got back to the studio and there was a call. And I say, yes. Yes, this is Jan Fox. I have a what? A sibilant S? My S whistles? And I was cordially invited to speech therapy. It was a speech therapist who noticed my S and said, I can fix that. Come to see me and I'll show you how to fix it. So I went twice and I had to read the Boston Globe, the front page of the Boston Globe every day, and every time I got to an S, I had to close my teeth. And if I whistled, I had to go back and start the sentence over. That's a lot of reading, the whole front page.
I imagine.
But by the time I went back in 2 weeks, I could put my teeth together. Now, if I get nervous, sometimes you'll hear that little whistle. But I just thought it was awful that I had to do this. And I thought, you know, I'm done. And I heard my daddy's voice sort of back here. And he said, Janet Fox, you go on out there, you try it again, because you have to keep your eye on the big prize. Keep your eye on the big prize. So I went back to the station, and the next time I had to rappel out of a helicopter on a little rope. So I did whatever they asked. And a while later, that host left, and they put me in the host chair for 13 weeks, just a 13-week contract while they went on a national search. Well, 5 years later, I was still sitting in the chair.
Congratulations.
Still sitting in the chair. So that's how I got on. And I did that for 5 years. And then they closed down all of the local programming on that station so that they could sell it and it would look lean. And I went up to Portland, Maine, thinking there was a reporter job open, and I'd never really been a reporter except for this silly stuff. But I went, and the guy at the end of the day said, did you just see our 6 o'clock show? And I said, yes. He said, would you mind sitting out in the woman's chair and just anchor with our anchor man? Just do a little test for us? And I said, sure. So there I am, sitting there saying whatever it said on the prompter, and 2 days later I got a call and they asked me if I would like to be the anchor.
Wow.
I'm a SEAL. That stuff's not supposed to happen. You know what I mean?
Destiny, maybe?
What?
Destiny, maybe?
Destiny, or I call it the big thing, the big plan, the big planner, somebody who had a plan for my life better than I could ever imagine.
Gotcha.
I just couldn't, you see, there was no way for me to plan that. I didn't have what color is your parachute, you know, to decide what I wanted to be when I grow up. And then I met a guy while I was there, a wonderful guy. He can cook and he does ballroom dancing at weddings. So all my friends want my husband, right? And he told me one day that he had 2 boys in college at the same time, and his business had gotten really tough at Portland. It was all about real estate, and real estate was in a bust at that time. And he said, I have an opportunity to go to work in DC. And I don't know what you're going to do, but all of your stuff is going on my moving van. That's what he said.
Wow.
So I came to DC. I followed my stuff. And once again, I had some decent tapes this time. And I I went to every station, and people would let me in, and then they'd say, well, you have potential, don't call us, we'll call you. I think I still have potential.
Oh, you have more than potential.
So sure enough, the Channel 9 guy said, I'd like to introduce, after we had an interview, and I could tell it was a really nice one, and my boss in Portland, Maine knew him, and I think he called ahead for me.
Oh, okay, good.
So it's the know somebody door. You always get in when you know somebody. But I was fully expecting, well, you have potential, and then I was going to go work in a dime store while my husband had his last job. But I remember he said, I'd like you to meet some more people. And I said, well, could I? Okay. And I didn't want to tell him. And he said, do you have any more videos of you doing other stuff? I said, yeah, they're out in the taxi cab. And he said, you've got a cab? I said, yes. He said, go tell your cab to leave. I was like so excited. I didn't know what it meant, but it meant I wasn't out the door yet. So I went and got my stuff out of the cab, and I said, I'll call you, Mr. Cab Driver, for all this waiting when I'm ready to leave. And about 2 hours later, I was introduced to the assistant news director, the producers. There was a reporter who will go nameless who that very day threw his hand across a shelf of tapes. They went flying, scared me to death. He was in a rage. And there was another guy who will go nameless, I understand, mooned me as I was walking into I mean, it was a crazy place back then. And so I remember that I was in a conference room, and I had all these people, and all of a sudden the door opens, and in walks a guy with shiny shoes and coiffed hair. It was all perfect, shiny shoes. A guy named Hank Yagi, just exquisitely dressed. And I said, this is a big shot. And that was the general manager. So one of the guys at the station, at the table, said, how do we know if we hire you as a reporter, when you get in here, you're not going to want to be an anchor? Will you get anchoritis? I said, do you know how old I am? And he said, yeah, I kind of figured it out. I said, I'm not your future as an anchor, but I can have longevity in this business as a reporter. I can grow fat, old, and ugly as a reporter if I know my stuff. And so he relaxed. And then another one said, and this is again that same thing about knowing somebody. He said, you know, I have a place in Goose Rocks, Maine. I remember watching you on Channel 6 News. I said, you do? I said, then do you think I can do this job? He said, oh, yes, I do. So once again, nothing I did, nothing I brought to the table really. It was somebody who knew my work from someplace before sitting at that table. What are the chances of that? And so I come from Portland, Maine to Washington, D.C. and get that big-time job at Washington. And I last 20 years. How do you last 20 years? So it's all just an amazing, amazing journey. When I say it's remarkable, I don't think anything I've done is remarkable. But I think it's remarkable that I've had this life. I mean, I've interviewed all kinds of celebrities, presidents. I mean, I've had a great run. So it was a really, I call it a fluke, but I also call it playing the tweaks. I didn't know what was coming next. I just played what was in front of me. Tweak this, tweak that, try a little test to do that. And that's how I ended up there.
Well, thank you very much for sharing that with us.
Okay, I told
really
you the whole
appreciate
world.
that. Yes, you know, you told me something about myself a few minutes ago when we were talking about
Yes,
speaking.
I did.
Allow me to tell you this. You don't have to agree with it. You made these things happen as a person behind it. You may or may not have known, but doing your work, doing your due diligence, moving forward, you pulled these things to you.
That's
From the very beginning, as you told me, you say to yourself, I'll be out of here. You made that decision then.
I did. 17 years old, I went up to college, never came home. I mean,
Yes.
back to live there.
That decision was made then, that I'm out of here.
Wow.
You made it happen.
You know, that's really humbling. I mean, do I owe you $200 an hour for therapy? I mean, this is...
Let's
this
make
is
it 20,000 per second. We'll feel more like it.
But that's Thank you for saying that. You know what I think it was? I think it was old Tom Fox standing at the shower standing in a filthy, dirty mirror in the bathroom, little bathroom, and he had his razor, and he had a little, you won't remember this, but those IBM punch cards that were kind of a manila color, and they had little holes in them. He had a list of names on that, and it was stuck up under the rim of his old aluminum medicine cabinet. And he did this every day. Lord bless Virginia. I don't know where she is out in Idaho. That's my mother. Lord bless Janet. She's out there in the murder capital of the world out there, whatever they call that place, Washington, D.C., and just keep her safe, will you? Just bless her. Just let her be a blessing. And I just think, look at me, get goosebumps. I just think that I was undergirded by a very strong man and a very strong belief that things are going to work out, because I couldn't stand the alternative. I couldn't stand the alternative of thinking something's not going to work. I remember one time I thought I was going to get a job, and the guy called me in the door, shut the door, and said, "You're the qualified person for this job, but I have to have a woman of color." So that's the reverse of what women of color hear. So I had situations like that where I didn't get exactly what I wanted. The guy was going to hire me to do a job in Providence, and he got fired before I got there. So, I was brokenhearted, okay? I was mad at the cosmic thing for that, I'll tell you. But I feel like that there's just, things work for me. I'm grateful for it, I think.
Well, I can tell you the story. It's about a place that was not taken care of, unkept and what have you, brushes, bushes and everything else, and people were passing by, nothing was happening. And then at one point, one person decided to create a garden, start grazing some fruits and what have you. The place has fruit, oranges and everything else. And then a rabbi was passing by, found the guy who was working there, and then he said, "Look what man can do with the help of God." And the guys, the farmers there say, "You should have seen when God was working by himself." We play our part.
We play our part.
We play our part. When we play our part, things happen. To me, in all that you said, you made the decision then that was going to go this way. Of course, life being as it is, you never know the twist, the this, the that, the other thing. You know what I'm saying? So in the long, you forget even that you made the decision. But that decision, that intention, carry you through, you keep the eyes going. Part of the challenge and that decision was made then. In fact, the story is similar to Oprah.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
I've never been compared to Oprah before.
Well, now you are.
But the story...
No, she has the same situation with her early. Right. Yes, early on her age, she came or whatever, some things happened, and she said to herself, "I knew I was not going to have this life." Her mother was working for somebody. She was a maid or whatever, doing. At one point, she made a decision early. I don't know, 4, 5, 6 years. I don't know exactly precisely. She said, "I decided I was not going to have this life."
Yeah.
Same story. One does not have to be Oprah, but the same laws apply to life.
She sure has made a life happen. She's definitely made a great life happen. It's helped so many women in the way. It's an amazing. Hers is an amazing story.
I just want you to get that, because so far it has never been impressed on you that you made it happen. But you told me you made the decision.
I did. If you'd seen that mess, you'd have made that decision too. You'd have wrapped yourself up and pretended you were Miss America to get out of there. Imagine a dream to get out of there.
You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
And then the rest just play out. But if that decision was not made then, you wouldn't probably have the life that you had after that.
Something good. I just think it was my dad, but something really great happened in that house to give me drive. Listen to my brother. My brother, from that same little old house, was a great athlete. And we played the game. He was a quarterback and a pitcher. And we would have to play the games in our living room before the game, the way they should be played, the way they're going to be played. Now, do this, do this. We would go to the game. We would come home from the game, and then he'd have to replay all the plays the way he should have done it. My brother has had 575 wins as a college coach.
Wow.
He's been in the Chicagoland Hall of Fame. He's been the athletic director of the year, the conference coach of the year many times. So he too had something in there that says, I'm going to achieve, I'm going to do something. And he's helped so many young men, so many. So something good happened there.
Definitely. Well, folks, you hear that from folks.
You know, I forgot they were out there. We were just having a conversation. I was getting therapy in there, and you just happened to listen along.
Again, I want to mention that we